here.
The pleasure of being here is mine. Thank you.
Today we will talk through some questions. We will talk about the raven. So, would you give us a brief introduction to these questions?
The Raven is a poem where the scaredness, the horror are the main ideas. All the story is about that, and I love it. I love how the readers get scared by reading this poem, and that's why this is my favorite poem. So, with these questions, we are going to give all the audience a brief summary of the imagination, the imaginary story that is the Raven.
So, let's start. What was the narrator doing before something was tapping at his door?
The narrator was taking a nap, was reading books for forgetting Lenor's death. He was trying to get his mind distracted from all his sorrow and his grief, the pain that Lenor left him.
Talking about this darkness and all that, give us a night, because the setting is in the December midnight. What significance a December midnight has?
A December midnight means that a night or midnight represents the devil, represents scariness, represents horror. So the mixture of December and midnight give us like an impression or an image of depression, of that this December was horror or was the worst December of all to this unknown narrator.
Yeah, so what was the narrator thinking that was on the other side of the door?
When the narrator was taking that nap and trying to forget Lenore, he thinks that it was a late visitor or someone that, a neighbor, someone that it's late, a late visitor.
And what did finally appear in there?
What finally appeared in there was a raven, the image of the devil, the symbol of the devil. A raven is representation of scariness, of horror, of terror, of all bad things we can imagine. So that's why I choose this representation of the sadness of Lenor's death to his unknown narrator.
Darkness and everything that represents.
That relates with these horror topics.
So, what does the narrator predict that nevermore means?
He predicts this word is only like the bird say this word because an owner, a rare owner, whether we don't know who is, teach this word to the bird. Like he only thought that the word he was saying was the bird's imagination or the bird's word that was taught from an unknown owner.
What happened at the end of the poem?
At the end of the poem, they don't give us a very exact image or a very exact identification of what happens at the end. But we can say, or we can infer, that the bird of nevermore takes the soul of this man. Maybe he died, maybe he lived, he disappeared from this end. We don't have an exact information that give us a detailed part or a detailed question to figure this.
So, another question, what does nevermore means to you and to the story?
nevermore means that this story is very significant to me because I live that sorrow and that grief when my wife died. So nevermore is the representation of loneliness, that I will never be again with the love, with the person I most love ever in the world. So nevermore have a lot of significance in this story.
What's the rivalry of the poem?
The rivalry in the poem is represented in the raven, because it's symbol of separation between the unknown narrator and Lenore. It makes that they separate.
How is the dead and living in this poem?
The dead and living, the only point is the death of Lenore. All the story goes around the idea of the death of Lenore. All happens around a mood of death. That is Lenore, the raven.
We know that you like the Gothic style. Where did you include the Gothic style?
The Gothic style is included in all the stories, because the midnight, the raven are symbols of Gothicness. Gothic style is represented through all the story, in the setting, in the loneliness of the narrator, in the midnight, in the raven.
Where we could find the self, solitude and consciousness in the story.
We could find these themes around the story in the middle of the grief and the loneliness of the narrator. The narrator is trying to forget the death of the person that he most loved, and that loneliness, that depression, is representation of this theme.
And the power of memory, where is it?
The power of memory is just in remembering Lenore. Remembering Lenore is all the story. Remembering Lenore is the power of memory of the narrator of all the stories.
We know these 5 things because they are the most characteristic things in
my style of writing.
Yes. So that's why I asked you those things. What is the importance of these themes on the story?
The importance of these themes in the story, in all my stories, the poems, is that without those ones, the story wouldn't have sense, wouldn't have its unique thing, that is my way of writing, or the Gothic style, the loneliness, the death and the living involucrated around all the stories. As you know, or as many of you don't, all my stories have involucrated death, living, Gothic. All this makes the story have an interesting point of view, an interesting way or form of writing.
Well, you only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only hate the road when you're missing home. Only know you love her when you let her go. And you let her go.
Okay, now we are going to tell you some good points and some bad points about the style of writing of Poe. As you know, there are some bad and negative views or points, and there are some other good. So now we are going to start with the good points of it. Thanks.
So, we will talk about a critical analysis of Poe's writing. What we like is that in the plot, it helps to make a clear image of what is happening. We can picture everything because it's very descriptive and use words that help us know what he's trying to tell us.
Now we are going to tell what we don't like about the plot of the Poe's writing. The plot is a very sad plot, always involucrated with darkness, with death. There is no anything that describes like living, that happiness. All the emotions that creates to us are of sadness, of horror, of depression. So that is the bad part of it.
It's good of the setting that is very descriptive. It helps to complement the story. If the story was without these adjectives and all that, we probably wouldn't feel the same in the story.
Now, the setting, the thing we don't like about the setting is that it's scary because it's in midnight, or it's involucrated with darkness, with night, with devil. So the images we create in our minds all are of death, of scare.
The other plot it's very similar in all his pieces, in all his writing. So it is very easy and nice to recognize everything, like the Gothic style, the self, solitude, and consciousness. Everything is very easy to recognize that the writings are from him.
Now, the author's craft, the part we don't like is that it's lazy, it's boring. He uses a lot of a strange vocabulary that maybe some people will understand, but people like us that are like in a part of our life that we don't have a very strong vocabulary, so we don't understand many things in his stories. So that part is really disappointed.
The moral teaches the important things that we should value life, because it shows us the consequences when we don't value the things, like in the Raven. Now he's missing his wife. I think he valued her, but now he will not show us that. He will show us that we should value people before they die.
It's a good moral, but it's a negative way of looking life. So at some point is what it teaches us is that more depression, more lazy, more darkness, all involucrated with this, that make us feel bad, make us feel wrong. But at some point it is also good because it makes us like know that life is very important, and like we should value life.
We are getting to
Thank you. Wait for us the next